What if the most powerful lessons ever written were never meant to be read? Not because they were false, but because they were dangerous in the wrong hands. Long before modern science, before religion, before recorded history, an ancient being known as Thoth is said to have written knowledge that could reshape the human mind. These teachings were not about wealth, not about power, but about something far more unsettling: how thought creates reality, why time is an illusion, and how the human soul can rise or remain trapped. The Emerald Tablets were hidden not to be forgotten, but to be discovered only by those ready to understand them. They were not placed in temples for casual visitors, nor displayed in marketplaces for curious eyes. They were concealed, guarded, and whispered about in shadows. Priests believed that if the wrong mind awakened too soon, chaos would follow. Imagine the weight of such words carved into stone. Each line was not just writing, but a key to unlock perception, to bend the way one sees the world, to shift the very fabric of reality. To read them was to risk transformation. To understand them was to risk never seeing life the same way again. Tonight, we will not decode symbols. We will not rush through myths. Instead, we will quietly uncover the lessons that still apply to your life today. Lessons that ancient priests believed could awaken the wrong minds. Listen carefully, because once these ideas are understood, they cannot be unseen. And if you love mythology and history from all cultures and forbidden ancient stories, subscribe, because this channel reveals the secrets behind every myth. And let me know from where you're watching from. The Emerald Tablets were never intended for the casual reader, nor for those who sought entertainment in myths. They were meant for initiates, for seekers who had prepared themselves through discipline, silence, and humility. Ancient priests believed that wisdom was a burden as much as a gift, and only those who could carry it without twisting it into selfish ambition were worthy of approaching the tablets. In temples, knowledge was guarded carefully. The outer courtyards welcomed the public with rituals and chants, but the deeper chambers were reserved for students who had proven their patience. To them, the tablets were not simply words carved in stone. They were living lessons, mirrors reflecting the state of the reader's soul. If one approached with arrogance, the meaning would remain hidden. If one approached with sincerity, the tablets would reveal truths that could reshape perception. The tablets were not meant for kings who craved power, nor for merchants who sought wealth. They were meant for those who asked deeper questions. What is the nature of reality? Why does time flow as it does? What lies beyond the body? These seekers were few, but they carried the responsibility of preserving wisdom across generations. In this way, the Emerald Tablets became a filter. They separated the curious from the committed, the ambitious from the humble, the impatient from the patient. They were not forbidden, but they were protected, waiting for minds ready to understand that knowledge is not possession, but transformation. And so the tablets were meant not for everyone, but for those who could see beyond the surface, who could accept that wisdom is dangerous in the wrong hands, and who could carry the lessons without bending them into tools of control. They were meant for seekers, and perhaps for you. Long before the first cities rose from clay and stone, before kings carved their names into monuments, and before priests lit fires in temples, there was already knowledge. The Emerald Tablets were said to contain truths that predated civilization itself. Wisdom carried from an age when humanity was still learning how to speak, how to count, and how to dream. This was not knowledge of crops or trade. but of the mind, the soul, and the cosmos. It whispered of forces unseen, of laws that governed existence long before humans tried to measure them. The ancients believed that Thoth did not invent wisdom, but recorded it, preserving truths that existed before humanity could even grasp them. The tablets spoke of cycles of creation, of consciousness flowing like rivers, of time as a shadow rather than a master. They suggested that civilizations rise and fall, but knowledge endures, waiting to be rediscovered. To read them was to glimpse a memory older than pyramids, older than writing, older than history itself. This knowledge was unsettling because it reminded humanity that we are not the beginning nor the end, but part of a vast continuum. It taught that the universe is older than any empire, that truth is older than any religion, and that wisdom is not owned but borrowed. Applying this today means recognizing that our discoveries are not entirely new. They are echoes of ancient truths, reframed in modern words. The Emerald Tablets remind us that civilization is young, but wisdom is eternal, flowing quietly beneath the surface of time, waiting for seekers to listen. Every scientific breakthrough, every philosophical idea, every spiritual insight is but another attempt to articulate what Thoth inscribed long ago. The tablets whisper that we are not inventors of truth, but rediscoverers, brushing dust off ancient stones and hearing echoes of voices that spoke before history began. The Emerald Tablets remind us that the greatest force in the universe is not fire, nor stone, nor even the stars themselves, but the human mind. Long before modern psychology or neuroscience, Thoth inscribed the idea that thought is not passive, it is creative. To think is to shape reality, to imagine is to build, and to focus is to transform. The ancients believed that the mind was a tool capable of bending the fabric of existence, a chisel carving the unseen into the seen. In temples, initiates were taught that the mind could heal or harm, elevate or destroy. A single thought, repeated with intention, was said to ripple outward like waves across water. The Emerald Tablets described consciousness as a force that could align with cosmic order or fall into chaos. To master the mind was to master destiny. To neglect it was to remain trapped in illusions. This teaching was unsettling because it placed responsibility squarely on the individual. No longer could one blame fate or chance. The mind was the architect, and every thought was a stone in the building of reality. The priests warned that careless thoughts could create suffering, while disciplined thoughts could create harmony. The lesson was clear. The mind is not a mirror reflecting the world, but a lamp projecting it. Applied today, this wisdom is both simple and profound. Every invention, every work of art, every scientific breakthrough began as a thought. Every fear, every worry, every doubt also begins in the same place. The Emerald Tablets urge us to treat thoughts as seeds. Plant carefully, nurture wisely, and recognize that what grows will shape the landscape of your life. The power of the mind is not about controlling others, but about mastering oneself. It is about realizing that reality bends not to force, but to perception. Thoth's words remind us that the mind is the most powerful tool we possess, and that to awaken it is to awaken the ability to create, to transform, and to rise beyond the limits of circumstance. The Emerald Tablets teach that thought is not a shadow of reality, but its architect. To the ancients, the mind was not a passive observer, recording what already existed. It was an active force, shaping what would come into being. Thoth inscribed that every creation begins first as a thought, a spark of imagination that precedes stone, fire, or flesh. The universe itself, they believed, was born from divine thought, a vision that unfolded into stars, planets, and life. In the temples, initiates were taught to treat thought as sacred. A careless thought was like a seed scattered on barren ground, wasted and forgotten. A focused thought, however, was like a seed planted in fertile soil, destined to grow into something tangible. The priests warned that thoughts could heal or harm, elevate or destroy. To think with clarity was to align with cosmic order. To think with chaos was to invite disorder into one's life. This teaching was radical because it placed immense responsibility on the individual. No longer could one claim to be a victim of chance. Every word spoken, every image imagined, every belief held was part of the creative process. The Emerald Tablets suggested that the world around us is not fixed but fluid, constantly reshaped by the collective force of human thought. Applied today, this wisdom is both unsettling and empowering. Every invention, every work of art, every scientific breakthrough began as a thought, but so too did every fear, every prejudice, every destructive act. The tablets remind us that the mind is a workshop, and what we build within it eventually manifests outside of it. To master thought is to master creation. Thoth's lesson is clear. Thought is not trivial. It is the brush that paints reality, the chisel that carves destiny, the unseen force that shapes the visible world. To awaken to this truth is to realize that every moment of thinking is an act of creation, and that the greatest power we hold is not in our hands, but in our minds. Among the most enduring lessons inscribed in the Emerald Tablets is the principle of cause and effect. To the ancients, this was not simply a rule of nature, but a cosmic law woven into the very fabric of existence. Every action, they taught, produces a consequence. Every thought, every word, every deed ripples outward, shaping the world in ways both seen and unseen. Nothing happens by chance. What we call coincidence is merely the meeting of causes whose roots we have not yet traced. In the temples, initiates were reminded that cause and effect was not punishment nor reward, but balance. Just as a seed inevitably grows into the plant it was meant to be, so to do actions bear fruit according to their nature. A kind thought plants harmony, a cruel word plants discord, and both will return in time. The priests taught that to live without awareness of this law was to stumble blindly, but to live with awareness was to walk with clarity. This teaching was unsettling because it stripped away excuses. Fate was not arbitrary. Destiny was not imposed. The tablets insisted that each person is both the cause and the effect of their own life. To blame the gods or chance was to ignore the truth. The universe responds to what we create. Applied today, the lesson is strikingly practical. Every choice carries weight. The way we speak to others, the way we treat ourselves, the way we think about the world. All of these are causes that shape future effects. The Emerald Tablets remind us that life is not random, but patterned, and that by changing the causes we set in motion, we change the effects that return to us. Thoth's wisdom is clear. To understand cause and effect is to understand responsibility. It is to realize that the universe is not against us, nor for us, but reflecting us. The law is impartial, eternal, and unbreakable. To live in harmony with it is to live with awareness, knowing that every moment plants seeds that will one day bloom. The Emerald Tablets speak often of light and darkness, not as enemies locked in eternal battle, but as partners in a dance that sustains the universe. To the ancients, light was not merely the sun's glow, nor the flicker of fire, and darkness was not simply the absence of illumination. They were forces, principles, energies that shaped existence. Light revealed, darkness concealed. Light expanded, darkness contracted. Together, they formed balance, and balance was the essence of truth. In the temples, initiates were taught that to seek only light was to misunderstand its purpose. Just as day cannot exist without night, wisdom cannot exist without mystery. The Emerald Tablets reminded seekers that the cosmos thrives on equilibrium. Too much light blinds, too much darkness suffocates, but together they create the rhythm of life. The priests used this lesson to teach humility. No force is complete on its own, and harmony arises only when opposites are embraced. This teaching unsettled many because humans often crave certainty. We want light without shadow, clarity without confusion, joy without sorrow. Yet, the tablets insisted that growth requires both. Darkness is not evil. It is the womb of creation, the space where seeds germinate, where ideas take shape before they emerge into light. Light is not perfection. It is the stage where those creations are revealed, tested, and lived. Applied today, this wisdom is strikingly relevant. We live in a world that glorifies brightness, success, clarity, visibility, while fearing the shadows of doubt, rest, and silence. The Emerald Tablets remind us that balance is the true path. Rest is as important as action, silence as valuable as speech, mystery as necessary as knowledge. To deny darkness is to deny half of existence. Thoth's lesson is clear. Embrace both sides of the cosmic dance. Let light guide you, but let darkness nurture you. Understand that balance is not compromise, but completeness. The universe does not choose between day and night. It gives us both, and in their rhythm we find harmony. The Emerald Tablets speak of immortality, but not in the way most imagine. To the ancients, immortality was not about endless years, or the refusal of the body to age. It was not about kings seeking to live forever in flesh, nor about potions promising eternal youth. Instead, immortality was a deeper truth, the survival of consciousness beyond the body, the continuation of awareness when the physical shell falls away. Thoth, the scribe of the gods, taught that the soul is not bound by flesh. The body is a vessel, temporary and fragile, but the essence within it is eternal. The tablets whispered that death is not an end, but a transition, a doorway through which the soul passes into new states of being. To understand immortality was to realize that life is not measured in years, but in experiences, not in breaths, but in awareness. In the temples, initiates were taught that immortality was not a gift to be granted, but a truth to be recognized. The soul, they believed, was already eternal. The challenge was not to achieve immortality, but to awaken to it. Those who lived blindly, trapped in illusions of material wealth and fleeting pleasures, remained unaware of their eternal nature. Those who sought wisdom, balance, and inner mastery discovered that they were more than bodies, more than names, more than time. This teaching unsettled many because it stripped away the fear of death, but also the comfort of permanence. Immortality did not mean clinging to the same form forever. It meant transformation, cycles of existence, journeys beyond the visible world. The Emerald Tablets reminded seekers that to fear death was to misunderstand life, and to chase eternal youth was to miss the point entirely. Applied today, this wisdom is both liberating and humbling. It teaches us to value the present, knowing that the soul endures beyond it. It urges us to live with awareness, to cultivate thoughts and actions that resonate beyond the body. Immortality is not about escaping death, but about recognizing that consciousness cannot be destroyed. Thoth's lesson is clear. Immortality is not a promise, but a reality already within us. To awaken to it is to live without fear, to embrace transformation, and to see life not as a fleeting spark, but as part of an eternal flame. The Emerald Tablets whisper of a truth that unsettled even the wisest of priests. Consciousness is not confined to the body. The flesh is a vessel, fragile and temporary, but awareness itself flows beyond it, like a river that continues long after leaving its banks. To the ancients, this was not speculation, but certainty. They believed that the soul could travel, observe, and exist outside the limits of bone and skin, moving freely through realms unseen. In the temples, initiates were taught exercises of silence and focus, practices that allowed them to glimpse this truth. Through meditation, ritual, and discipline, they sought to step beyond the body, to feel the mind expand into spaces where time and matter no longer held sway. The Emerald Tablets describe this as awakening, the realization that the body is not the self, but a garment worn for a season. This teaching was both liberating and terrifying. To know that consciousness survives beyond the body meant that death was not an end, but a transition. Yet it also meant that the soul carried responsibility. What one thought, what one did, what one became did not vanish with the body. It endured, echoing into realms beyond. The priests warned that those who lived blindly, trapped in material illusions, would remain bound even after death, unable to rise. Those who cultivated wisdom and balance, however, would ascend free to explore higher planes of existence. Applied today, this wisdom invites us to reconsider identity. We are not merely names, jobs, or bodies. We are awareness, capable of stretching beyond the limits of circumstance. Dreams, intuition, and moments of deep silence remind us of this truth. The Emerald Tablets urge us to see consciousness as a traveler, moving through experiences, learning and transforming. Thoth's lesson is clear. The body is temporary, but the soul is eternal. To awaken to consciousness beyond the body is to live without fear of endings, to embrace transformation, and to recognize that awareness itself is the true essence of who we are. The Emerald Tablets speak of time not as a straight line, but as a shadow cast by eternity. To the ancients, time was not the ticking of hours, nor the turning of calendars. It was a perception, a way for the human mind to measure change. Thoth taught that time is an illusion, a construct that helps us navigate existence, but does not define it. The soul, he said, is not bound by minutes or years. It flows beyond them, untouched by the clocks that govern mortal life. In the temples, initiates were taught to see time as a cycle rather than a line. Day follows night, seasons turn, empires rise and fall, and yet beneath these rhythms lies something timeless. The Emerald Tablets reminded seekers that eternity is the true reality, and time is only its shadow. To awaken to this truth was to realize that beginnings and endings are illusions, that what we call past and future are simply different perspectives of the same eternal present. This teaching unsettled many, Because humans cling to time. We measure our worth in years, our progress in days, our hopes in tomorrows. Yet the tablets insisted that time is not a master, but a tool. It organizes experience, but does not limit existence. The priests warned that those who remain trapped in the illusion of time live in fear of endings, while those who awaken to eternity live in freedom. Applied today, this wisdom invites us to reconsider how we live. We rush through hours, chase deadlines, and fear aging, forgetting that awareness itself is timeless. The Emerald Tablets urge us to slow down, to see each moment not as fleeting, but as eternal, to recognize that the present is not a point between past and future, but the only reality we truly inhabit. Thoth's lesson is clear. Time is a veil, not a truth. To awaken is to see beyond the ticking of clocks, to embrace the eternal present, and to live without fear of endings. Eternity is not far away. It is here, hidden beneath the illusion of time. The Emerald Tablets describe reality not as solid and fixed, but as vibration. To the ancients, everything in existence was understood to be in motion, resonating at frequencies that shaped its form and function. Stone, water, fire, even thought itself, all were seen as vibrations, patterns of energy humming through the cosmos. Thoth taught that to understand vibration was to understand the hidden architecture of reality, the invisible rhythm that binds the universe together. In the temples, initiates were taught to listen for this hum. Through silence, meditation, and ritual, they sought to attune themselves to the subtle vibrations that underlie all things. The Emerald Tablets suggested that matter is not truly solid, but a condensation of energy vibrating at slower frequencies. Consciousness, by contrast, vibrates at higher levels, capable of shaping and influencing the lower. To awaken was to realize that reality is not fixed, but fluid, shifting according to the vibrations we align with. This teaching unsettled many because it challenged the senses. What feels solid, what appears immovable, is in truth a dance of energy. The priests warned that those who cling to appearances remain trapped in illusion, while those who perceive vibration glimpse the deeper truth. They taught that harmony of vibration leads to health and clarity, while discord leads to imbalance and suffering. Applied today, this wisdom resonates with modern science, which reveals that atoms are not solid, but fields of energy, constantly in motion. The Emerald Tablets remind us that our thoughts, emotions, and actions carry vibrations that influence the world around us. A calm mind creates harmony. A chaotic mind creates disruption. To live with awareness of vibration is to recognize that reality responds to the frequencies we embody. Thoth's lesson is clear. Reality is vibration, and to master it is to master life. By aligning with higher frequencies, thoughts of clarity, actions of balance, emotions of harmony, we rise above illusion and shape existence with intention. The universe hums, and we are part of its song. The Emerald Tablets carried truths so profound that the priests who guarded them believed not everyone should be allowed to read them. Knowledge, they taught, was a double-edged blade. It could liberate the soul, but it could also enslave the mind if misunderstood. To protect these teachings, fear became a tool. Fear was not simply an emotion. It was a barrier, a wall erected to keep the unprepared away from wisdom that could overwhelm or corrupt. In the temples, initiates were warned of dire consequences if they approached the tablets without readiness. Stories were told of those who sought power instead of balance, who twisted wisdom into domination, and who fell into ruin. These tales were not always literal, but they served their purpose. Fear kept the curious at bay, ensuring that only the disciplined, the humble, and the patient would dare to seek deeper truths. The priests understood that knowledge without guidance could be dangerous, and so they cloaked wisdom in mystery, guarded by warnings of punishment and peril. This teaching unsettled many because it suggested that wisdom was not freely given but carefully rationed. Yet the Emerald Tablets insisted that the danger was real. To awaken the wrong mind too soon was to risk chaos. A person unprepared for the truth of thought as a creative force, or the illusion of time, might misuse it, bending reality for selfish ends. Fear was the safeguard, the lock on the door of wisdom, ensuring that only those who had proven themselves worthy could enter. Applied today, this lesson is strikingly familiar. Even now, knowledge is often hidden behind complexity, jargon, or secrecy, not because it is false, but because it can be misused. Technology, science, and philosophy all carry risks when placed in careless hands. The Emerald Tablets remind us that fear, though limiting, was sometimes necessary to protect wisdom until the right minds were ready. Thoth's lesson is clear. Fear was not meant to destroy curiosity, but to guide it. It was the guardian at the gate, ensuring that knowledge would be approached with reverence, caution, and respect. Only then could wisdom serve its true purpose, not as a weapon, but as a path to awakening. The Emerald Tablets remind us of a tension that has existed since the dawn of civilization, the difference between wisdom and power. To the ancients, these were not the same thing, though many rulers confused them. Power could command armies, build monuments, and bend nations to its will. Wisdom, however, could shape the mind, elevate the soul, and align humanity with the eternal laws of the cosmos. Thoth inscribed that power without wisdom leads to destruction, while wisdom without power risks being ignored. The balance between the two was the true path of mastery. In the temples, initiates were taught that wisdom was the higher pursuit. Power was seen as temporary, fragile, and often corrupting. A king's reign might last decades, but wisdom endured across centuries. The Emerald Tablets warned that those who sought power without wisdom would fall into chaos, enslaving themselves to greed and ambition. By contrast, those who sought wisdom first would find that true power flowed naturally, not through domination, but through harmony with universal law. This teaching unsettled rulers because it stripped away the illusion that authority alone could secure eternity. The priests reminded them that monuments crumble, armies fade, and wealth vanishes, but wisdom remains. Power is external, dependent on circumstance. Wisdom is internal, rooted in understanding. The tablets insisted that the soul rises not through conquest, but through clarity, balance, and truth. Applied today, this lesson is strikingly relevant. We live in a world that often glorifies power, political, financial, technological, while neglecting wisdom. Yet the Emerald Tablets remind us that power without wisdom is dangerous, capable of reshaping reality in destructive ways. Wisdom tempers power, guiding it toward creation rather than chaos. To awaken is to recognize that the greatest strength is not in control over others, but in mastery of oneself. Thoth's lesson is clear. Wisdom and power are not enemies, but they must be balanced. Power without wisdom is blind. Wisdom without power is silent. Together, they form the path of true mastery, where knowledge guides strength, and strength serves truth. The Emerald Tablets remind us that that the greatest journey is not across deserts or oceans, but within. The path of inner mastery was considered by the ancients to be the highest pursuit, for it required no armies, no wealth, and no monuments, only discipline, awareness, and courage. Thoth taught that to master the outer world, one must first master the inner. Without this foundation, power collapses, wisdom fades, and the soul remains trapped in illusions. In the temples, initiates were guided through practices designed to strengthen the inner self. Silence was the first lesson, for in silence the mind reveals its chaos. Reflection was the second, teaching the seeker to observe thoughts without being ruled by them. Discipline was the third, reminding the initiate that mastery is not achieved in a single moment, but through consistent effort. The Emerald Tablets described the path of inner mastery as a ladder. Each rung was a step toward balance, clarity, and awakening. This teaching unsettled many because it demanded responsibility that could not be delegated. Kings could command armies, merchants could gather wealth, but neither could purchase inner mastery. It was a path walked alone, requiring honesty with oneself. The priests warned that those who ignored the inner journey would remain slaves to fear, desire, and illusion, no matter how powerful they appeared outwardly. Applied today, this wisdom is timeless. We live in a world filled with distractions, noise, and endless pursuits of external success. Yet the Emerald Tablets remind us that true strength lies in mastering the inner world, to cultivate patience, to quiet the mind, to rise above anger and fear. These are the victories that shape destiny. Inner mastery is not about perfection, but about awareness, the ability to choose clarity over chaos, balance over extremes, and truth over illusion. Thoth's lesson is clear. The path of inner mastery is the foundation of all wisdom. It is the journey of turning inward, confronting shadows, and awakening the light within. To walk this path is to discover that the greatest empire is not built outside, but within the soul itself. The Emerald Tablets reveal that wisdom was never meant to be scattered carelessly across the world. The ancients understood that knowledge, especially knowledge of the soul, the cosmos, and the creative power of thought, could be dangerous if placed in unprepared hands. To safeguard it, they devised methods of protection that were as much spiritual as they were practical. In the temples, priests and initiates guarded the tablets with layers of secrecy. Stories and myths were woven around them, disguising truth in allegory so that only those with insight could discern the deeper meaning. Rituals and codes ensured that wisdom was passed only to those who had proven discipline and humility. The Emerald Tablets themselves were said to be inscribed in a language of symbols, requiring not just literacy, but awakening to interpret. Thus, protection was not about hiding knowledge, but about ensuring readiness. This teaching unsettled many, because it meant that wisdom was not freely available. The priests warned that those who sought knowledge for power alone would misuse it, bending reality toward greed and destruction. To prevent this, they cloaked truths in mystery, guarded by fear and reverence. The tablets insisted that wisdom must be earned, not taken, and that protection was necessary until humanity matured enough to wield it responsibly. Applied today, this lesson resonates with how societies still guard knowledge. Scientific discoveries, spiritual practices, and even technologies are often restricted until they can be understood and applied safely. The Emerald Tablets remind us that protection is not suppression, but stewardship. It is the recognition that wisdom is a living force, one that must be approached with respect, patience, and balance. Thoth's lesson is clear. Ancient knowledge was protected not to keep humanity ignorant, but to keep humanity safe. It was preserved through secrecy, symbolism, and initiation, waiting for seekers who were ready to rise above illusion. The tablets remind us that true wisdom is never lost, it is safeguarded, waiting for those who prove themselves worthy to receive it. The Emerald Tablets were written in an age of temples and initiates, yet their wisdom still speaks to us in the modern world. Thoth's teachings were never meant to remain locked in stone. They were designed to be lived, applied, and rediscovered in every era. To apply them today is to recognize that the principles of thought, balance, vibration, and consciousness are not relics of the past, but tools for navigating the present. In the temples, initiates were taught discipline, silence, and reflection. Today, these same practices can be translated into mindfulness, meditation, and self-awareness. The Emerald Tablets remind us that the mind is creative, shaping reality through thought. In a world filled with distractions, applying this teaching means cultivating clarity, focusing on intentions, and recognizing that our inner state influences the outer world. Thoth's lessons on balance between light and darkness, wisdom and power, cause and effect are equally relevant. Modern life often pulls us toward extremes, endless activity without rest, ambition without reflection, technology without wisdom. The tablets urge us to restore equilibrium, to honor both action and silence, both knowledge and humility. Balance is not compromise, but completeness, and applying it today means living with awareness of both sides of every experience. The teaching of vibration resonates strongly with our age. Science now confirms what the ancients intuited. Everything is energy. Everything is in motion. To apply this wisdom is to recognize that our emotions, thoughts, and actions carry frequencies that shape our lives. Choosing harmony over chaos, compassion over anger, and clarity over confusion is a way of aligning with higher vibrations. Finally, Thoth's reminder that consciousness extends beyond the body invites us to live with perspective. We are not merely names, jobs, or possessions. We are awareness, travelers on a larger journey. Applying this today means living without fear of endings, embracing transformation, and treating each moment as part of an eternal continuum. Thoth's lesson is clear. His teachings are not ancient curiosities, but living truths. To apply them today is to awaken, to see beyond illusion, to live with balance, and to recognize that wisdom is timeless, waiting for us to embody it in the modern world. The Emerald Tablets teach that silence is not emptiness, but strength. To the ancients, silence was more than the absence of words. It was a force, a discipline, and a gateway to wisdom. Thoth inscribed that silence allows the mind to settle, the soul to listen, and truth to reveal itself. In silence, one does not lose power, one gathers it. In the temples, initiates were trained to embrace silence as part of their path of mastery. Long hours were spent in stillness, not as punishment, but as preparation. The priests taught that silence sharpens perception, allowing the seeker to hear what is hidden beneath noise. The Emerald Tablets described silence as a shield, protecting wisdom from being wasted, and as a vessel holding energy until it is ready to be released. To speak too quickly was to scatter power. To remain silent was to concentrate it. This teaching unsettled many, because humans often equate silence with weakness. Yet the tablets insisted that silence is the opposite. It is control, patience, and clarity. Those who rush to speak reveal their thoughts before they are ready. Those who remain silent choose when and how to release their strength. The priests warned that silence is not about withholding truth, but about honoring it, ensuring that words are spoken with intention rather than impulse. Applied today, this wisdom is profoundly relevant. In a world filled with constant noise, conversations, notifications, endless streams of information, silence becomes rare and precious. The Emerald Tablets remind us that silence is not wasted time, but a source of renewal. It allows us to reflect, to listen deeply, and to act with clarity. Silence gives space for wisdom to grow and for power to gather. Thoth's lesson is clear. Silence is not weakness, but mastery. It is the pause before creation, the stillness before action, the strength that comes from restraint. To embrace silence is to discover a hidden source of power, one that elevates the mind, protects the soul, and aligns us with the eternal rhythm of truth. The Emerald Tablets warn of a peril greater than any external enemy, the danger of unawakened minds. To the ancients, an unawakened mind was not simply ignorant, but asleep to truth, blind to the creative power of thought, and unaware of the eternal nature of the soul. Thoth taught that such minds, left unchecked, could become destructive, not because of malice, but because of blindness. They stumble through life, ruled by fear, desire, and illusion, shaping chaos without realizing it. In the temples, initiates were taught that awakening was not optional, but essential. The priests warned that unawakened minds could misuse knowledge, twisting wisdom into tools of greed or domination. The Emerald Tablets described them as shadows, living without awareness of the light, repeating cycles of suffering because they could not see beyond the illusions of time and matter. To awaken was to break free. To remain unawakened was to remain bound. This teaching unsettled many because it placed responsibility on the individual. It was not enough to blame fate, rulers, or gods. The tablets insisted that each person must choose whether to awaken or remain asleep. An unawakened mind, they said, is easily manipulated, easily trapped, and easily led astray. It becomes a danger not only to itself, but to others, spreading confusion and imbalance. Applied today, this wisdom is strikingly relevant. We see unawakened minds in the form of misinformation, fear-driven choices, and blind pursuit of material gain. The Emerald Tablets remind us that awakening is not about superiority, but about clarity. It is the difference between living consciously and living reactively. To awaken is to recognize the creative power of thought, the balance of light and darkness, and the eternal nature of the soul. Thoth's lesson is clear. The greatest danger is not ignorance itself, but ignorance combined with power. An unawakened mind can build empires, invent technologies, and shape societies, but without wisdom, it risks leading them into ruin. The tablets urge us to awaken, to rise above illusion, and to ensure that knowledge serves truth rather than chaos. The Emerald Tablets were inscribed thousands of years ago, in an age when temples rose from the sands and wisdom was guarded by priests and initiates. Yet their teachings continue to echo across time, whispering truths that remain as relevant today as they were in the halls of ancient Egypt. The question is not whether these teachings are old, but why they still matter. The answer lies in their timelessness. They speak to the nature of reality, the journey of the soul, and the responsibilities of consciousness, truths that do not fade with centuries. Knowledge rooted in the cycles of nature, the balance of light and darkness, and the eternal rhythm of the soul does not expire. The Emerald Tablets remind us that wisdom is not bound to a single culture or era. It is universal, applying to anyone who seeks clarity, balance, and awakening. While languages change, technologies evolve, and societies rise and fall, the essence of human existence remains the same. We still wrestle with fear, desire, ignorance, and the search for meaning. The tablets matter because they address these struggles directly, offering guidance that transcends time. One of the most urgent reasons this knowledge still matters is its warning about unawakened minds. The ancients feared that wisdom in the hands of those driven by greed or ambition could lead to ruin. Today, with technology capable of reshaping the planet, this warning is more relevant than ever. The Emerald Tablets remind us that knowledge must be tempered by wisdom, and power must be balanced by responsibility. Without this balance, progress risks becoming destruction. The teachings of silence, balance, vibration, and inner mastery are not abstract relics. They are practical tools for modern living. Silence teaches us to pause in a world of constant noise, to gather strength before action. Balance reminds us to honor both rest and activity, both clarity and mystery, in an age of extremes. Vibration aligns with modern science, showing us that everything is energy, and our thoughts and emotions shape our reality. Inner mastery urges us to cultivate patience, discipline, and awareness, qualities desperately needed in a distracted world. These lessons matter because they offer antidotes to the chaos of modern life. They remind us that wisdom is not about escaping reality, but about living it with clarity and intention. Perhaps the most profound reason this knowledge still matters is its reminder of the soul's eternal nature. In a world obsessed with material success and fleeting pleasures, the Emerald Tablets call us to remember that we are more than bodies, more than names, more than years. We are travelers on a larger journey, and our choices shape not only this life, but the path beyond it. This perspective dissolves fear of death, reframes suffering as initiation, and elevates daily life into part of a sacred continuum. Thoth's wisdom is clear. Knowledge matters only when it awakens the soul, balances power, and guides humanity toward harmony. The Emerald Tablets still matter because they remind us of truths we are in danger of forgetting. That silence is strength, that balance is completeness, that vibration shapes reality, and that the soul is eternal. They are not relics to be admired from a distance, but living teachings to be applied in the present. To ignore them is to risk repeating the mistakes of the past. To embrace them is to step into awakening, carrying ancient wisdom into modern life, ensuring that humanity grows not only in power, but in clarity, compassion, and truth. The Emerald Tablets close with a vision not bound to the past, but directed toward the future. Thoth, the eternal teacher, understood that civilizations rise and fall, temples crumble, and languages fade. Yet he inscribed his wisdom so that seekers across ages could rediscover it, carrying the flame of truth into times he himself would never see. His lesson was not merely for the priests of Egypt, nor for the initiates of hidden schools, but for humanity as a whole, a gift meant to awaken generations yet unborn. Thoth's central message was that wisdom is timeless. He knew that the challenges of humanity would repeat, greed, fear, ignorance, and the misuse of power. By encoding his teachings in symbols and rhythms, he ensured that they could survive beyond empires, waiting for those ready to interpret them. The Emerald Tablets remind us that truth does not belong to one era. It is a thread woven through all ages, connecting seekers across centuries. The danger Thoth foresaw was not destruction by external enemies, but forgetfulness within humanity itself. He warned that people would become distracted by material pursuits, blinded by illusions of time, and trapped in cycles of desire. His lesson for the future was clear. Remember that the soul is eternal, that thought shapes reality, that balance sustains life. Forgetfulness, he taught, is the true death, the loss of awareness of who we are and why we exist. Thoth's vision was not only about survival, but about responsibility. He knew that future generations would inherit knowledge far beyond what the ancients possessed. Technologies capable of reshaping the earth. Powers that could either elevate or destroy. His lesson was that wisdom must guide power, and awakening must temper ambition. Without this balance, humanity risks repeating the mistakes of unawakened minds, building empires that collapse under their own weight. Applied today, Thoth's teachings are strikingly relevant. Silence as strength in a noisy world. Balance as completeness in an age of extremes. Vibration as awareness that our thoughts and emotions shape reality. Inner mastery as the foundation for all wisdom. Awakening as the responsibility to live consciously, not reactively. These lessons matter because they remind us that progress without wisdom is hollow, and that the soul's journey is far greater than material success. And so, as the tablets close, Thoth's voice lingers like a gentle echo across time. His lesson for the future is not thunderous command, but quiet reminder. Awaken, balance, remember. The wisdom of the ancients is not locked in stone. It is alive in every moment we choose clarity over chaos, compassion over fear, and truth over illusion. As the night deepens, imagine the stars above as the same lights Thoth once gazed upon. They remind us that wisdom is eternal, that the soul is vast, and that the journey continues beyond the boundaries of time. Let his words settle into your mind like a lullaby, guiding you towards stillness, balance, and peace. The tablets close softly, not with finality, but with invitation. Their lesson is here for you, waiting to be lived, waiting to be remembered. And now, as the ancient scribe would have wished, let the mind rest, let the soul breathe, and let silence carry you into the rhythm of eternity. Good night.